Good afternoon and welcome to GA for Justice with your community activist, the one and only Georgia Allen. And she's here to bring you some informative information. Good afternoon and welcome to the GA for Justice show. How you
Good
doing?
afternoon. Good afternoon. I am so excited. We're coming up on the holidays. We're right around the corner from Christmas. And then right after Christmas, we go into Kwanzaa. So I'm so excited and
Yeah.
welcome to my listening audience today. Again, I am Georgia F. Allen, your noonday host on every Thursday on WVDM, and it is the GA for Just Is
Yeah.
show. And we love to always just be grateful and thankful. And this time of the year, it's especially good to just be thankful for everything that we have. And, you know, while there may be a lot of things going on outside and all around us, we still have to take time out to just pause and be grateful for everything. And so, with that being said, I want to, as always, I want to thank Mr. Henderson Vaughn. I want to thank Mr. Dreammaker. I want to thank Captain 85 for
Hey.
opening up the airwaves and allowing us to have an opportunity to share with the listening audience. And it's a simple conversation. We like to have a conversation for information, a conversation whenever necessary for correction, and then a conversation for transformation. Because if we're not trying to transform the things that are negative in our lives, in our communities, around our cities, then we're not doing very much. And so we need to get in the habit of trying to work toward making things better. And so today's conversation is come out from among us. And you said, well, why did you choose that? Why did you choose that? Well, I chose it because it is the holiday season. And one of the principles of Kwanzaa is Imani. And Imani is faith, to believe with all of our hearts in our people and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. And that's important because we have a tendency to immerse ourselves in a community and in a structural system that doesn't value us. And so sometimes you have to come out from amongst all the foolishness and get away from all of that and set your own standards. And standards shouldn't be changed. They should be locked in, and they should be foundational principles that we hold on to all the time. And so, again, as we're in this holiday season, as we're in the season of Kwanzaa coming up, Imani, our faith, we need to come out from amongst them. And I came up with this topic because I do devotional every single day. And my spirit kept saying, you guys are headed in the wrong direction. You're surrounding yourself sometimes by the wrong people. You are engaged in things that you don't need to be engaged in. And you need to engage in things that you should be engaged in. And so when you become a part of a community that you're measuring yourself by their standards, and their standards are subpar already, you need to back away from that. You need to come away from that, and you need to come out from amongst that, because that is not beneficial to you. It is not beneficial to you. So those of you who are online listening right now, please share, because I think this is a conversation for all of us here in our community. Because one of the things you also want to know is, when we decide to come out from amongst this foolishness, we need to decide, um, where are we going?
Hmm.
And we also need to decide, how do we plan to get to where we're going?
Yep.
Because as, as long as we continue to measure ourselves by the white people's bar, that bar is not good enough. That is not a measurement that we should be using, and is definitely not a measurement that we should be giving to our young people. Their bar is not good enough. And you say, well, why isn't their bar is a good bar to measure yourself by? Because you can't measure yourself by a bar that has always been a bar of chaos and corruption. Think about it. Here we are, a community, a family. We had no borders over in Africa. It was all of our land together. We go from place to place. We talk to each other or whatever. It didn't mean that we didn't sometimes disagree, but we weren't putting in borders and saying, this is your piece and that is your piece, etc. But then somehow we got here. And once we got here, we came into a situation where, one, we were captured to get here. Okay.
Right.
We were loaded on a structure that wasn't that we weren't accustomed to, because we were free. If there was water near us or a stream near us, we was free. And we wanted to go fishing, we went fishing. And then when we got here, we ran into a similar situation where there were people already here. And if they wanted to go fishing or hunting or whatever, they did that. And now all of a sudden we're in this situation with these people who are chaotic. We're in this situation with these people who have all types of confusion going on. And if the truth be known, they were a little crazy. They were very complicated people. And they constantly kept chaos going. They decided that, okay, even though people are already on this land, instead of me coming together and working and building together, we decide we want all the land. And we decide to move people from place to place. So when you see all of this foolishness going on, and you have standards, you have values, you have to ask yourself, is this something that I want to be a part of? Is this a cultural environment that is beneficial to me, to my family, to my children, grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren, and generations that follow me? And I would venture to say that is probably not something that you want to immerse yourself in. Doesn't mean that you're going to say, well, I'm not going to be around these people. I'm never going to be around. I'm not going to talk to them. That's not what it means. It means you don't want to pick up poor habits. It means you do not want to become that chaotic person. It means that you don't want to be cutthroat. It means that what you want to do is identify what is important to you and then build upon that. So when you're coming out of something, you should be coming out of it because it's not of benefit to you. It's harmful, it's damaging, it's demeaning. If you know anything about this nation that we have been a part of for generations, there was the Black Codes, there was Jim Crow, there was Reconstruction, there was enslavement, there were lynching. So none of those things were favorable to us. And we have to tell ourselves the truth. We have to tell the whole truth. So when people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you're talking about this. And I can't believe that you're sharing this publicly. Somebody has to do it.
Hello.
So well, why are you sharing it publicly? Because I see us going backwards. I see laws being implemented that take us backwards. And if we're immersing ourselves in something that is not beneficial to us, then as a collective, we're going to continue to go backwards. But if we take a look at what is taking place and decide that we need to come out from amongst it, we need to separate ourselves, which is nothing more than what Scripture tells us. Scripture tells you, come out from among them. These people are
Hello.
rioters. They're doing all kinds of crazy foolishness, and you don't want any part of that. Separate yourself. Make sure that you have the standards that are foundational that will last the test of time. And so sometimes even though it seems harsh, sometimes you do have to back away from some things. Sometimes it may be family, sometimes it may be friends, sometimes it may be the community, sometimes it may be your organization, sometimes it might even be some parts of your city government. But in cases of city government that you're paying taxes and that they're using your money
Mhm.
to do work that may not be of value to you, then you got to challenge the status quo. And you got to get your crew together to help correct those things that are not in your best interests. So today I'm talking about come out from among them. Come on now, come
Mhm.
from among them. And for me, when I look at it, I look at it through the lens of our forefathers and all that they went through in order to provide to us what we have today. And I look at it from a lens of people who were willing to give their lives in order for us to be able to have the things that we have. But one of the things that I find that we tend to do again and again and again is as we climb the ladder, we become our own worst enemies, which means we become our community's enemy. And that is not beneficial. That is not beneficial. So, as an activist, I look at what are some of the things that we can do when we're coming out from among them. We can educate ourselves. We can educate ourselves and gain the knowledge that we need to operate in these systems of things. And there are more than one system. There's an overall system, but within that system, there are other systems that are operating and functioning and making laws and deciding what can be done, what can't be done. And the thing that bothers me the most is they're spending our money. They're spending our money. They're spending our contributions. They're spending our tax dollars. They're spending the resources that we have built. And sometimes that resource is just us as human beings. Sometimes it's just us as human beings. I look at our judicial system and I'm reading a book, uh, Black Robes, White Justice.
Mhm.
And they talk about this judicial system that is not very judicial. Okay. It talks about the laws that are made constantly that are harmful for us. And it's a lot of times because we are a part of that system and we have not put infrastructure in place to protect ourselves from those who are making those laws. And keep in mind, we have done it before. Keep in mind, we've done it before because we've had cities and communities that were strong, self-reliant, communities that had everything that anybody required, their own businesses. The communities had their own banks. They provided and created their own jobs. And these communities worked on behalf of the people and they could go to each other when they needed help. They had their own medical services. And for some reason, we thought and convinced ourselves that somebody's ice was colder than ours. We convinced ourselves that if we got the white rice, it was better than the brown rice. For some reason, we convinced ourselves that the white grains of sugar was better than the brown sugar. We convinced ourselves over the years, and we continue to convince ourselves, and we continue to put ourselves in situations that create problems, not only for us personally, but problems for our community as a whole. And somehow we're going to have to shake ourselves up. We're going to have to pick ourselves up. We're going to have to turn ourselves around and change what we are doing. Because if it was working, we wouldn't have the problems in our communities that we have if what we were doing was working. Obviously, it is not working. Our children are struggling. Our seniors are struggling. We have a healthcare system that doesn't provide health care. It provides meds to take for the rest of your life. So we got all of these systems that out here that someone else created, that someone else put out here supposedly as a service for us. But the services are not working because our children are dying younger and younger. I am so tired of seeing some of our best resources and our best of the best. 31 years old, dead. 53 years old, dead. And we see it all the time. They pop up on our feed. Young people. One died of lung cancer, I think, Andre Bugger, Baugher, recently. Excellent actor. And just like that, gone. But I'm sure he probably had pretty good health care. But somewhere down the line, even with all that money, somewhere, let's hope that he did go to the doctor like he was supposed to. That could have been a situation. But we also see over and over again, even when you do go and reach out for health care, that you don't receive the same type of health care, that you're sent home when you need to be staying in the hospital.
Yeah.
So if we are amongst people who don't value us, then we need to go back into our community and value ourselves. We need to go back into our community and reconstruct and reorganize and restructure our own communities. We need to come out from amongst them because what we're doing right now is not working. It's not working for our benefit. And so it's up to us. It's up to us again. When I look at the things that we need to do to make things better, we need to educate ourselves. And not just those of us who are adults and those of us who are activists, but we also need to educate within our homes and within our communities. And this should be ongoing. Whether we're having chats at the barbershop, or whether we're going out to the library and calling each other together and saying, hey, let's do a group chat right here in the library. Let's pick up a book and decide that this is the book that we're going to read. And then we're going to discuss that book. And then we're going to talk to our children about what we read. And we're going to share that information. And we're not going to keep it to ourselves, but we're going to keep on providing it. And we're going to let it just grow and reverberate throughout our community, that knowledge. But we also need to enlighten. Enlighten just means we just need to garner that emotion because we are an emotional people. And when we have emotion, we get excited. And when we get excited, we share the things that we know. And we're willing to do that because there's an excitement in that. So we're educated and we're also enlightened. That light bulb that goes off that says, you know what? I need to do some things differently. And I hear a little whisper in my ear too. Sometimes I might be too tough on my children, or I might be too tough on a neighbor, or I might be too tough on someone that I'm in the same group or organization with, and I need to go back and I need to tone it down. I need to
A little bit.
change the way I talk. I know. So I'm talking today just as much to myself as I am sharing with my listening audience. You want to share something with us, Henderson?
Well, sometimes you have to be tough in order to get the message out. We are losing precious cargo, or the future generation. I mean, kids, people are dying at 3 years old, 7, and taking guns. And one of the guys I knew that was in business, that in Norfolk, right there, Merrimack.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot his name right now, it escapes me. He was shot last night and died.
Oh
Killed.
my gosh.
Um,
Oh.
He's been on that corner for years.
Mm-hmm.
I knew his son, and when I was out, when I'm always promoting, he always let me put flyers in his grocery store. And he was breaking up a fight or something, and he got shot.
And so he was trying to keep people safe.
Yeah.
And lost his life.
Yeah.
Trying to protect others.
Yeah.
And that's
real nice guy. Real nice.
That's sad.
Yeah.
And
but these are the things we got to talk about in order to get our young people to understand it's not a short life. They can have what they want, but they have to wait and work, get the education. The streets is only 2 places you're going. That's to the cemetery and the pipeline to prison. Pick
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what you're saying is so very true. And here again, that's that transformational piece.
Yeah.
Because we want to keep our communities intact, but we want them to be thriving and not just a group of people barely surviving. Yeah. We want our communities to be communities that are caretakers for each other, rather than communities that are exploiters of each other. Yeah. And so we have some work to do. And that's part of the reason why toward the end of the year, I want to talk to it from a standpoint of faith. There's something about faith that says we are to be our brother's keeper. We are to be concerned about one another. We are to be concerned and have a love for those who are less fortunate than we are. And we cannot continue to look down our nose at someone because maybe they don't have the same thing that we have. We have got to get out of this 5% mindset. Remember the 5%ers?
Yeah.
W.E.B. Du Bois used to talk about that. They were just 5%ers. These were the best of the best Black people in our community. And the 5%ers, they were the ones that were going to be A-okay. But if 95% of your folks aren't okay, you will never, ever, ever be okay.
Right.
Shall I repeat that? If 95% of us are not okay, that 5% will never, ever be okay. Never. Oh, they may have some money, but guess what? They're always uncomfortable as well, because now they're worried about if my brother is going to come and harm me, or if I'm driving down the road and there's a police officer that sees me in a nice vehicle And he says, well, I'm a public servant. And he says that I'm here to protect and serve. But there's something in them about that envy that decide that why do you have that vehicle and I'm working hard every day and I don't?
Yeah.
But there's never that mindset saying that, you know what? If that person, regardless of the color of their skin, worked and now is able to provide these things for themselves, then why should I be concerned about that? Maybe I need to think differently and look at what else can I do? What change can I make to perhaps own a similar type vehicle if that's something that I'm passionate about and that's something I want, or own the type of home that they own? Because I don't care how many people say that, they got rich overnight. That is not the case.
Yep.
That is not the case.
Not happening.
If you look, Michael Jordan went to the basketball court every single day. And when he went to practice, after the practice was over, he continued to shoot the ball. That was work.
Yeah.
It was not an overnight success. It was a continuation of hard work. And so he made a decision to come out from amongst the people who wanted to do half of the work that he was willing to do. That's all he did.
Yeah.
He made a different decision. He made a different choice. He said, okay, these guys want to go in here and practice for 2 hours and think that they're, that they're really good. I'm willing to practice 4 to 6 hours and be the best. Okay. And so we need to change our bar. We need to change our bar from trying to live up to a fake bar that really doesn't exist, because guess what? It keeps moving.
Hello.
If you're living by someone else's bar, all they got to do is change the bar. All they got to do is move it. It happens all the time. You go and decide that you want to become an attorney, and the professor gives you this coursework. You pass all the coursework and you do everything that you're supposed to do. And guess what? That professor comes back to you and say, well, you know what? In order to, after you get out of school, to get that particular job at the best law firm out there, you're going to need to have this. Now, that was never told to you when you were going through and doing your coursework. It wasn't told to you until after you went through, reached all the bars, reached all the levels, did everything that was asked of you, and you applied to all of these various law firms, and all of a sudden, the bar has moved. It's changed.
Oh, yeah.
And so that same professor that was supposed to recommend you because you were an overachiever, but he's got a friend over here who looks like him and not like you, he's trying to figure out, well, you made it. You did everything you were supposed to do. But my heart of hearts will not allow me to help you any further. So let me put another obstacle in your way.
Hello.
Let me place another one in your way. But if you want to come out from amongst them, you can form your own group of lawyers and set up your own law firm. So we're going to have to think differently.
Yeah.
When we're coming out from amongst them. And you say, well, that's going to cost money. Well, it's going to also cost you money when you go and are put in a position that is less than what you qualify for, paid less than what you qualify for, do more and above and beyond, and have someone else take credit and then turn around and make them the judge before they make you a judge. And so now they're getting all these extra perks and other benefits and everything. And you've done everything that was required of you and then more to have someone else take the credit for your work. So just go into your own law firm and do the work as a collective. So it's expensive to go into the law firm if you go in as a private law practice. But if you can find some folks in your law school who look like you, and you say, okay, well, let's look around and see what we can do. Let's check out the environment. Maybe there's a house and we went down to the city and found out that house just happened to be on a corner that has just been rezoned commercial. And so because all of you have your law degree, you decide that, hey, let's see if we can put some money together and buy the house and make that into a law firm. Okay, so I want you guys to think outside of this box that we've been locked in for decades in someone else's system. Let's form our own system. Let's come out from among them and create our own system. Or let's just go back and look at what our forefathers did in Wilmington, in Tulsa, in some of these other cities like Elaine, Arkansas, Springfield, Illinois, thriving communities, and say, okay, what was it that they did? Even down to Southeast DC. If you look at the people that came, that were living in those areas, they were some of the best and brightest. Even in New Jersey, Dionne Warwick, section in New Jersey, where all of the, not all, but a number of Black people were in that area. Harlem, some of the people who owned the most lived in Harlem. But what America and cities and other groups tend to do is they go in and they find an old building. And what they do is they buy that building.
Yeah.
And then they allow that building to begin to become dilapidated. And it starts to look raggedy. And they decide that they're not going to cut the grass or clean anything around it. They're going to just let the building begin to fall down. And what do? They go back to the city and they tell the city, well, oh man, this place is dilapidated. So we need to devalue the homes of the people who are living in that community.
Hello.
So you got to come out from amongst them. So you need to go and instead of allowing them to do that, you need to go down to city council as well and say, this guy's not taking care of his property. And he's affecting what is happening to our property. And so we're losing the money and the value of the property that we have. And so when we get our city tax evaluation of what our housing is worth, and the appraisal amount is totally different than what we know it to be worth. So keep in mind all the time, you in a system. So when he's going to the system, you also need to be going to the system, but don't go alone. When you come out from amongst them, come out from amongst them as a group and as a posse.
Yeah.
And go down there and change the outcome. Because see, those people that are making those decisions, they want to get reelected, or they want to stay on the planning commission, or they want to be in certain positions. So what you do is you pull your group together and you begin to vote people out of office, but you work in advance to identify persons who are genuinely interested in your well-being. Because we have a habit of putting people in office who are in office for their own personal benefit and not for the benefit of the community. So keep in mind what you're doing when you're voting. make sure that when you are voting, that you are voting for your best interests. Keep that in mind. And I think it's time for announcement time, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Trying to make sure that we always keep the community informed. So right now, upcoming, we have the NAACP Virginia Beach State Conference Legislative Day, which will be held on January the 16th, 2024. So if you're living in anywhere in the Commonwealth of Virginia, you're able to go to the Legislative Day. You can just go online, Google NAACP Virginia State Conference, and that Legislative Day, again, will be January the 16th, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, they are also offering hotel options, and that's for folks who live quite a distance from Richmond. Those of us who are here in Hampton Roads, we can be in Richmond in about an hour and 15 minutes. So we can probably ride up, come back the same day. But those of you who may not have that flexibility, you may want to stay overnight at the hotel, and they do offer hotel discounts. So again, the Legislative Day at the Virginia State Capitol in Richmond, Virginia, NAACP Virginia State Conference is January 16, 2024. And you say, well, what do you do at Legislative Day? You go to your legislators and tell them what it is that you want to see and how you want them to vote. So you become a lobbyist on that particular day. You know, all those lobby folks that are out there that's getting paid all this money that come down to our state capitol and to our U.S. Congress and tell people, well, you know, I represent the firefighters. I represent the police association. You can go down there and say, look, I'm a member of the NAACP, and I represent all of the people who are concerned about how you're doing education, who are concerned about how you're voting on climate justice, on criminal justice, on whether or not we have gun safety laws or we just have the Wild Wild West. I'm concerned about how you decide what type of, when it comes to marijuana, I'm here to talk to you about that, because a lot of times when it comes to things such as marijuana, they have legislation that's harmful in terms of how much time someone get because they smoke one weed. See, you can tell that I don't do marijuana, so I can't explain. That is not my thing. But I think they're little cigarettes or something like that. But see, I don't smoke, so it's hard for me. But you know, now there's more recreational marijuana, and so we want to make sure that the types of laws that they put in place, that they don't do extreme damage to our community as in the past. We also want to look at how are they voting on healthcare. You know, how are they voting on minimum wage? What are our voting rules? And those voting rules, are they helpful or are they harmful? So when you go into your state legislature, you want to talk to your legislators and push them in a direction that is beneficial. So that is, again, is January the 16th. Also, there's another group, Virginia Organizing, and they're constantly out there working on behalf of the community as well. You can pull them up, Virginia Organizing, and they have worked on everything from LGBTQ to a lot of the same things that the NAACP has worked on. They're also concerned about healthcare, whether or not women can make their own healthcare decisions or if someone else is going to make them for them. And so you want to be a part of groups and organizations that will help you understand how some of these laws work and what impact it's going to have on you personally, or what impact is it going to have on you as a community. So again, I always like to announce about some of the things that are coming up, because some of you listen to this now and while it's live, but some of you listen to it later. Some of you share it with your friends and your relatives. And so every time that we can use our airwaves to share information with people, we want to do that. But the other thing is, if you don't live in our city, keep in mind a lot of what I share with you can be something that also affects you in other cities. So you still want to go to your local government or your state government, or talk with your congresspeople or your senators on both levels, both on the state level and the national level, and find out from them. Look at how they voted. Did they vote in your interests? And if they didn't, ask them. I'll call my city council member up and say, why did you vote no on a vote? Why didn't you support this? Or why did you support something when I'm concerned that that was a vote that you should have voted no on? And so you want to be able to know who your representatives are, and then you want to question them. And you want to check and see if what they are doing and how they are voting is in your best interest. Because everybody's looking for Washington to fix everything. Washington sends us money. They send it to the states, and then the states divide it up and send it to the local government. And then the local government decide how it's going to be spent, with or without your permission in many instances. With or without your permission.
Yeah, can you limit?
So we want to make sure that you are well aware, that you get involved, and that you do your own lobbying. The other word that I always like to use is when it comes to activism, and when it's coming to how we're going to make changes, is we sometimes have to encourage. And when I use the word E for encourage, I mean, you got to push people. Because if you don't push people, guess what? They're going to sit there and they're going to procrastinate. And then they're going to sit here and say, well, I wasn't comfortable, or I can't do that. I can't speak out. But you're on Facebook all the time making comments. So could you send an email? If you don't feel comfortable speaking out, could you send an email? So you want to push people when they're uncomfortable. Because if you do not push them when they are uncomfortable, you will never get them to the position where they begin to be comfortable doing the things that have to take place in order to change our outcomes. Because it's going to be a collective effort. It's not going to be one person. It's going to be a collective effort in order for us to make some real changes wherever you live. It doesn't matter where you live. Okay. The other thing that's coming up is on January the 23rd. Our sister Juanita Williams, she is going to be doing a session. It's called Wisdom from Juanita. She's the former director for Elaine Luria, our former congressperson, and she handled constituent services, meaning that she was the one responsible if a person called in to identify if that is something that their office can do, or whether or not she needs to refer you to someone else. Constituent services simply means that you can call your congressperson or your senator or anyone else that is elected to office. And if it falls within their purview, because keep in mind, there is nobody that everything falls within their purview. And so you may need to go to your school board member. So if that's the case, guess what? Wisdom from Juanita, she is going to tell you that is an issue that you want to take to your school board. That is an issue that you want to take to your city council. That is not a congressional issue. And so while she is not with the Congress person's office anymore, the knowledge is still there. The information is still there. It didn't leave her after the congresswoman did not get reelected to office. So that
Right.
information and that knowledge is still there. And then the last thing I wanted to say to you guys is to get engaged. You cannot expect 1 or 2 people or 5 or 7 people to do the work for the whole entire community. So when I say get engaged, I mean go to work. Get out there and do the work. Get out there and if it's your community, do some things in your community that makes your community better. Do the work. And this is so very important, especially now, and especially in a city like ours, where things are moving rapidly. We have 2 people who are trying to run for mayor of this city. And of course, when that happens, one could get elected or none could get elected. And if that happens, then there's 2 seats that are now available. So we're going to have to look at how we're going to make sure that we don't lose any seats. Okay. So if there are people that we have supported in the past or people that we are engaged with, we want to make sure that we do our work to ensure that either one of them get elected to the mayor's seat. And if they do, we still need to protect those 2 seats that are going to be vacated because they have chosen to run for mayor. Now, a lot of people say, well, tell one of them to drop out. Let me tell you, I've been out here a long time. And when folks get it in their mind that they are going to do something, it's virtually impossible to tell them not to do it. Even if they don't have a prayer to win, even if they know that that is not going to be in the best interest of the masses, they feel like it's something that they want to do, and maybe the Lord is calling them to do it. And when they get that in their mind, don't expect to change their mind. Okay? Don't expect to change their mind. So we have a lot of work to do. I'm coming up on the close of the show today. We have a whole lot of work to do. Again, we're going to be talking about Imani probably for the next 2 weeks, because we're coming up to the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And next year we'll be kicking off the show with a few new things. We're looking at some changes to GA for Justice starting in 2024. But as you know, one of the things that I absolutely love are principles. Okay. Principles, standards, non-negotiable. Just non-negotiable. Okay. Now, does that mean that you're going to have all the same principles and standards that I have? Absolutely not. But mine are non-negotiable. Okay. They're just non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. and so, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to listen to how you stand on certain issues and things. I tell people all the time, because I think it's important, especially people who run for office. If you don't believe in abortion, tell people you don't believe in abortion, but also tell them whether or not you are willing to allow the law to stand, or tell them whether or not you are willing to allow them to make their own decisions, even though you may not believe in abortion. Let them know. Let them know. You know, I hear so many people saying that they want to run for office, but they're scared. Well, they're going to look at my background. They're going to look at my family, and all of these different things that they come up with. Okay. Sometimes you're going to have to encourage those people because they need a push. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you're going to have to educate them because they need a little bit more knowledge because they're not comfortable with the information and knowledge that they have. But sometimes you have to be very firm with them and let them know that maybe this is not your time to run, and you may want to reconsider that. And so there are so many moving parts that are going on right now. And the thing that I like to say about we as a people, there is brilliance. I call it BE. There's brilliance in our community, and we see it all the time. We see it all the time. And a lot of times we're not using our brilliance because we're measuring ourselves by someone else's standards. And we need to stop measuring ourselves by someone else's standards. And that's why I'm saying to you today to come out from amongst them, because you're listening to people who do not have your best interests at heart. The other thing when I say BE is execution. We have got to start executing the things that need to happen in order for us to get the right outcome. See, we're brilliant and we'll start something, but we won't follow up with the execution.
Right.
We'll go halfway and we'll stop. And we need you guys to do that last piece. We need you to be brilliant, but we also need you to execute. We need you to execute what you started. Because if you don't, execute, if you don't make sure that you follow through, that you follow up, even if you do come out from amongst them, you're going to go right back in that same trap of being a follower and not a leader. And we need some leadership out here. And we don't need leadership that is divisive. We don't need leadership that think they are smarter or better than someone else. We need leadership that knows how to bring people together. You guys know I love quotes. One of them is, better a small army united than a large army divided, causing the committed to fail. You're not going to be able to execute if you're constantly falling. You're constantly divided. You're constantly at odds with one another. There's constant chaos. There's constant confusion. And sometimes they're just crazies up in the community. And sometimes just crazies.
Yeah. Hey, gotta agree with you.
I just gotta keep it real. That's the only way I know how to do. Any of you who have listened to my messages on a regular basis or from time to time, you know that I am a person that has a strong belief in my community, a strong belief in our young people, a strong belief that we can do greater things than what we're currently doing. And right now, I think we're too interconnected to those things that are creating a situation that is not of benefit to us. Some of us are out here, and you know who you are, who are playing this chess game, or you think it's chess, but you're really playing checkers. Okay, you're really playing checkers, but you think that you're the one that's supposed to pick and choose who's going to run for office, and you think you're the ones that's supposed to pick and choose who's the best and who's the greatest, and you don't really have any tactics. You don't really have any real strategy, and you don't have any way of getting to the end zone. As a matter of fact, you start the game and you stop playing at halftime. But you think you're going to win the game. You get on the football field or you get on the basketball court And boy, oh boy, you play and play and play. The first 2 quarters of the football game, the first 2 quarters of the basketball game, and the last 2 quarters, the other team runs away and win the game. And then you walk away. Well, if only we had. If only you had removed yourself and come out from amongst them. That's what it is. Because you was listening to them and they were telling you, oh man, this is what you're supposed to do. You so busy listening to these folks and y'all getting your clicks, and you decide that, well, you know, we don't pick him, we don't pick him, we don't pick him. Well, where's the female that you picked? Where's the activist that you picked? Oh, you're running around here, you picking and selecting. And who made you in charge? Who put you in charge to pick and select everybody? Have you sat down and had that conversation? Because you got to have a conversation. Because guess what? When you start picking and choosing, and you haven't included, and you know, you're picking and choosing, and you don't have any inclusion, guess what? The chances are you're going to find yourself losing. You're going to find yourself losing. So with that being said, I am GA. I am Georgia Allen with GA for Justice. And we'll be back next week, same time, 12 noon on Thursday. And I hope this has been helpful, because if we have clicks in Virginia Beach, I'm sure we have them out on the West Coast. I'm sure we have them down south. I'm sure we have them up north. I'm sure we have them out in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everywhere.
And so talk to your people in your community. See if there's somewhere where you can come together. Because again, united, we bargain, but divided, we're going to be begging for the rest of our lives. And I suggest that you learn how to unite. You get it together. You get your small army so that you can win and not lose. And with that being said, I bid you goodwill and good day.
Ain't no doubt about it. Always a great topic. Always a great conversation with the community activist Georgia Allen. And, you know, we'll be back after Christmas. I want to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and hope you share this video with people on your page, because Christmas is coming and you can't get around that. It's the day that Christ was born. And on behalf of, you know, Miss Georgia Allen, community activist, to take out of her busy schedule to do this broadcast every Thursday from 12 until 1. It's important for you to share the information and appreciate her time and her experience and knowledge in working in the community. On behalf of WVDM and GA for Justice, I bid y'all a good evening and a wonderful
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bye-bye.